That is bassist Tom Wakeling, who, by the way, stopped by here in the KJZZ studio to talk a little about the bass and his brand new album, West by Northwest. Welcome to KJZZ, Tom.
Well, thanks, Blaise. Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Now, the bass is a really large, you play the upright bass.
I do. I play the bass guitar and the upright bass.
But how did you get started playing the bass?
Well, I started as a clarinet player when I was 6.
That's a jump.
Yeah. And when I moved out to Oregon my last year of high school from Chicago, they needed a bass player in the school stage band. I was playing saxophone, and I'd always sort of dug the bass. It's the thing that caught my ear when I listened. I grew up, I'm 71. I grew up in with the music of the 60s and 70s and listening to all these great electric bass players. And so I was on it right away. The guy gave me a bass, and he gave me all the music, and he said, here it is, go, learn this. And I'd already studied piano, so I knew how to read bass clef, and having played classical clarinet from the time I was 6, I knew how to read music relatively well. And, I was motivated. So I just spent hours learning how to play the bass guitar.
So did you get in a band right away? Was there a band motivation?
Well, I was in the high school stage band, which was very cool at the time.
Now, where was this?
This was in Portland. This is after my family moved out to Portland, Oregon. And I thought it was way cool because it was like a jazz thing in a school, and that wasn't really as common in those days. But of course, I met friends at school who had like interests in pop music, and we got together at each other's homes, and one of the first records I remember from that time that was really inspiring was the Les McCann and Eddie Harris Swiss Movement record.
Oh yeah,
Cold Duck Time. And we learned Cold Duck Time. And
then you're all excited playing that.
Yeah, playing that kind of stuff, sort of soul jazz. And having grown up with pop music, I dug the Beatles and Jimi Hendrix and Sam and Dave and James Brown. I didn't see the Beatles, but I saw Hendrix and James Brown, and I saw these people live,
So didn't you want to play the guitar when you saw the guitar is the star. So are you just a supportive guy?
Yeah, I think so. I just loved the bass, or I don't know what it is. It just called out to me, And I had a friend in Chicago I played saxophone in a band, and a sort of like a soul band, And the bass player was one of my friends, and he let me mess around on his electric bass. And I always wanted to be the bass player in that band, even though I didn't really know it at the time.
How fun!
Yeah. So
you just thought it was the cool guy in the group.
I don't even know if it was that as much. I don't know what it was.
You like the sound.
I dug the bass. It's so foundational,
Yeah. It's interesting how often I hear musicians say that. Like, I found my instrument, it was my instrument, and I just knew it. The trumpet, the bass, whatever it was, and
yes.
I just heard it and knew that's what I wanted to play.
Yes.
So it's kind of cool. But it is a challenge, but to move.
Well, yes, the upright. And I've been playing pretty much only upright bass, except for some recording sessions that I was doing during the pandemic. But I've been playing, upright bass has been.
So first you were playing electric. You were
Yes.
playing in the band. And
Yes.
Then how did you make that switch to the big bass?
Well, I'm playing in the high school jazz band, and we're playing jazz. And, we were playing Count Basie's music and Buddy Rich's music. And Buddy had electric bass in his band at the time. But then somehow I got on to hearing the Oscar Peterson Trio with Ray Brown and Ed Thigpen, that record they did from the London House in Chicago called The Trio. And there's just that got me, And so I was playing with a couple of other musicians, and we were just playing straight ahead jazz. And I'd heard Jaco Pastorius, so I went into the luthier across the hall from where my studio was and asked him if he'd take the frets out of my bass because I wanted that fretless bass thing. So he pulled the frets out, and so I'm trying to emulate acoustic bass, but I should have just at that time gotten an acoustic bass. But I'd go on these gigs, and people would say to me, "Man, if you played upright bass, I'd hire you for more gigs." So I went and got an upright bass, and I started teaching myself how to play it. And I talked to got with a guy in the symphony, and he helped me a little bit. I didn't really ever study formally with a bow. I couldn't play my way out of a paper bag with a bow or pass a classical audition. I'm a thumper, I'm pizzicato guy, But I just started playing and got some good direction and got to study with some great bassists along the way.
I mean, it's quite a change. I don't know if people realize, people listening who aren't necessarily musicians, but it really is quite a change going from an electric bass to an upright bass.
Huge.
First,
Physically.
Yes, physically.
Yes.
It's turned around. The
spacing is a lot much bigger.
Right.
Well, I would take both basses I'd go to a gig and I'd take the upright and I'd take my electric bass and I'd play the upright until my hands hurt so badly I couldn't play it anymore. Then I'd play the electric bass for the rest of the gig. So the day that I took, that I left the electric bass home.
That was a success.
That was a day of victory. Yes, exactly.
Well, let's listen now to Tom Wakeling. He has a new album out. It's called West by Northwest, and he's got some Arizona musicians on this. Angelo Versace at the piano, Dom Moyo drums, Jason Carter plays some trumpet on it. Let's listen now to the new album, West by Northwest, and then a little surprise coming right after that.
Day in, day out, the same old hoodoo follows me about, the same old pounding in my heart whenever I think of you. And darling, I think of you day in and day out, day out, day in. I needn't tell you how my days begin. When I awaken with a tingle. One possibility in view, that possibility of maybe seeing you. Come rain, come shine, I meet you and to me the day is fine. Then I kiss your lips and the pounding becomes the ocean's roar.
That's Rebecca Kilgore doing Day In, Day Out from the Rebecca Kilgore Trio, featuring Tom Wakeling playing the bass. And before that, we heard Tom Wakeling's brand new album, West by Northwest, recorded live at the Ravenscroft. We heard the Mambo in Angelo Versace, Dom Moyo, Jason Carter. What a killer band. When you travel and do these different places, do you think the audience is different in different venues that you play?
Well, I would say, over the course of my career, they would be more appreciative in Europe and Asia. More consistently appreciative is what I should say. I don't mean to say that in a bad way. I think it's just perhaps the arts are better funded for public consumption, in those countries. But it's amazing. I mean, we get amazing audiences with this band. Everywhere we go, they're appreciative. They're involved. They're engaged.
Well, I think here in Arizona, in the Valley, in Tucson, I think we have some wonderful venues that encourage listening. Real
Absolutely.
Listening, like the Nash and the Ravenscroft, and certainly the Century Room in Tucson and the church. So, those places just really encourage the audience.
Yes.
To be there and to be there to listen.
Yes. And I've been really fortunate the last I don't know, 8 or 10 years to pretty much play in that type of situation. I don't play a lot in
Bars?
yeah, bars. Yeah, I do. I have, of course.
Right.
We all have, you know.
Right.
But I think I probably work a little bit less, but each thing is maybe more, enjoyable, I guess, or more, the audiences they're just fantastic, and they're there to hear the music,
Right.
and they're paying money to hear you. And I mean, I've always felt, or maybe I should say I've learned this over the years, as jazz musicians, we're entertainers.
Right.
And I don't mean that to cheapen it. I just mean, we have to draw the audience in. We have to do our part too. And it's cool to come to Arizona and feel like we're doing our part and having people respond to that.
Mm-hmm.
That's golden.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's important to remember that we are entertainers, because sometimes people forget.
Yes. Yes.
We've
Absolutely.
seen that. Coming up in just a minute, we're going to hear Tom Wakeling doing the Lotus Blossom. Now, tell me about this tune we're going to hear from your new album, West by Northwest.
Okay, this is by Kenny Dorham, and it's funny because we also this is a new record, this West by Northwest recording, just out last Friday, actually. And we were doing initially Billy Strayhorn's Lotus Blossom, which is sort of a beautiful ballad.
Yes.
And we'd been playing that for the last couple of years. And Jason Carter, a trumpet player, came in one day and said, let's do the other Lotus Blossom. And I said, what? What do you mean the other Lotus Blossom? And he says, yeah, the one by Kenny Dorham. And I said, there's only one Lotus Blossom as far as I know. And Jason said, oh no, there's two. So he brought it in, we started playing. Then we began to do it as a suite. So on the album, the first there's two Lotus Blossoms. The first one is the beautiful
Ballad.
lush, Billy Strayhorn ballad, followed by this one that you'll be hearing by Kenny Dorham, which is more up.
Now, do you have a website?
TomWakeling.com, WAKELING.
So people can find out where you're playing. You have listed these gigs that we're talking about today.
Yes, they are. Yes.
And they can they buy the album there, or the tunes there?
The album is on, it's on all the streaming services. It's at Bandcamp, Amazon, anywhere you can
download,
get music, or buy this. It's a physical CD as well. It's available as well. So yes.
I'm talking with bassist Tom Wakeling, and we're going to hear him do a Lotus Blossom from his brand new release, West by Northwest. Angelo Versace at piano, Dom Moyo drums, Jason Carter playing trumpet. Now, how did you meet these people? There are a lot of people who play here. How did you find these guys?
Well,
you probably played with a lot of cats here in the Valley.
I've played with not a ton of them, a handful, when I started coming down. My wife and I started coming down here years ago for spring training. She's a big baseball fan. And I hadn't really been down here for spring training before. And, we came down, and then somehow I got a call to do the Paradise Valley Jazz Party, which was the first time you and I met, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Through that, I sort of got to know people down here, and Dom Moyo was one of the first people I got to know quite well, and he was very kind to me, invited me into his home and into a circle of friends, and we've sort of been, good friends ever since, and musical partners, and we have a great chemistry. We hook up real well. So that's sort of how it got started, and then I was on tour with Rebecca Kilgore, the vocalist, and we were in Tucson, and I met Angelo Versace there. He came to our gig, and we had him sit in, and I was like, whoa, this guy can play. I want to play with this guy. So as things evolved, I started getting Angelo, get some gigs down here. I had Dom and Angelo, and then Jason Carter just sort of happened along by chance, really. And the first time he played with us, we all sort of looked at each other and went, whoa, this
makes sense.
This is the guy. Yeah, this makes sense. So, yeah.
Well, let's listen to the band, and then we will hear from Rebecca Kilgore. She's got a brand new album out called A Little Taste, which is a tribute to Dave Frishberg, and we're going to hear her sing about the funnies. We'll hear her sing about Brenda Starr. First, here's Tom Wakeling with Lotus Blossom from West by Northwest on KJZZ 91.5 HD2. I'm Blaise Lantana. I'm glad you could join us today. This is your home for jazz 24/7.
Let's check out the news today. Let's see what the headlines say. Archduke of Zanzibar found slain in Danish spy's boudoir. Who got the scoop? Who got the poop? Our super reporter Brenda Starr. World Series delayed by rain. Mad bomber to plead insane. Ex-wife of Russian Tsar will wed Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Who wrote it up? Who sewed it up? Our super reporter Brenda Starr. Making headlines, beating deadlines. Let me tell you, it's tough on the shoes. Here's a story, kinda gory. A man bites dog, hey, that's new.
All right, Rebecca Kilgore singing Brenda Starr for you on KJZZ 91.5 HD2, featuring Tom Wakeling on the bass. And before that, we heard Tom Wakeling and his band doing Lotus Blossom from Tom's brand new album, West by Northwest, recorded live at the Ravenscroft right here in Arizona. And Tom is here with me in the studio. Welcome to KJazz, Tom.
Thanks, Blaise. Thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
And when you recorded this, did you record this? You were playing a concert, or was the house empty?
We were playing a concert. It was at the Ravenscroft Center, and they have a fantastic staff and equipment and the ability to record. It just
yes,
sounds...
Bob Ravenscroft is an audiophile, definitely brilliant.
Well,
brilliant.
It shows on our recording. It just came out wonderfully. Yeah.
So you had an audience. Did you tell them you were recording?
No. I don't think that we did, because as I understand it, they record many of the shows there automatically. So
you just had it, and then you liked it, and you put it out.
Well, it's funny because we played our show, and at the end of the show, we got off the bandstand, and we all sort of looked at each other and went like, "Wow, that was really good," And we've been playing together quite a bit, but
right.
This seemed to just have the secret sauce,
Yeah, sometimes it happens. Yeah,
and so somebody said, "Well, man, we ought to try to figure out how to put this out," and the rest is history. It's out.
It's a brand new album from Tom Wakeling, and it's called West by Northwest. Angelo Versace playing the piano, Don Moyo drums, Jason Carter playing the trumpet, and Tom Wakeling on the bass. Now, we were talking a little about how you got into the bass, but you did some other work. You were teaching out in Oregon.
Correct, yes.
And what were you doing out there?
Well, I have taught over the course of my life almost all as a part-timer, because I wanted to play the bass all the time.
Right.
Everything from fifth grade band to university. And I finally caved in and got a real job when I was 45, and I became the chair of the music department at a community college up in Portland, and did that for about 12 or 13 years, sort of as a full-time, like a real job. And then, retired as soon as I could so that I could play the bass. To be honest
but when
with
you were teaching, did you organize the music program? So there were, you were talking a little bit about using equipment to record?
Oh, yes.
And compose?
Yeah. Well, our program, I was at Clackamas Community College, which is a very well thought of music program in the area. And they had the typical traditional band, choir, orchestra, jazz band thing. And a music major would take, the core music theory and music history and all that stuff. But, the whole computer thing was coming along, and people had made the switch from using manuscript calligraphy pens and handwriting, hand copying music to using the computer. And, the colleges at that time weren't teaching that, nor were they teaching audio recording or sound design or, any of these, how to do video, how to edit and shoot video and sync it to audio and all those things. So, I started looking around going like, we should be teaching this stuff. This is a community college, and we're preparing people to go into the workforce, and there's content. If you think about the need for content in this world, there's 550 cable channels, and you go to the mall and there's content there's music everywhere and sound everywhere.
Right.
And I felt like it was important for our department to be teaching people how to create content, whether it be video, audio, whatever. So we started putting a program together and getting some grants and getting a recording studio together and a computer lab together to teach people how to make content and all of the different components of that. Foley, and editing and everything that goes sound design, everything goes along with that.
I always wanted to be a Foley artist.
Really?
Yeah. I listen to a movie and go, oh, listen to the sound of that door closing. That's so good.
Well, you know what? You could have come to my college and gotten the professional technical certificate in how to do that. So anyway, it grew into a thing, and we ended up being the only school in Oregon who offered a state-approved professional technical certificate in music technology, and we were the first and still the only to offer that specific thing. Of course, now all of the college programs have gone into
use that
stuff as they should.
Well, I'm talking with Tom Wakeling, and he has a new album out. It's called West by Northwest. Well, let's listen to another tune. Now, this is called The Watergate Blues. Where did you come up with this title?
Well, I did a tour a few years ago with Tootie Heath, Albert Tootie Heath, one of the three famous Heath brothers, a drummer. In preparation for the tour, I felt like it would be really good to learn some stuff, that Tootie would be playing. Well, Percy Heath, Tootie's older brother, wrote the Watergate Blues. And so I came upon that, and I learned to go out and do this tour with Tootie. So it's Percy Heath's song.
Well, let's listen to this is from the album West by Northwest. Tom Wakeling playing the bass on KJZZ 91.5 HD2 Phoenix. You can find us online and on your phone at Jazz PHX, where you can get your jazz fix 24 hours a day. Tom Wakeling in the Watergate Blues. I'm Blaise Lantana. I'm glad you could come by and talk with us a little. I had something else I wanted to ask you about, and that is when you're a bass player, you're like in two sides of the band. I don't know how to put it any other way, but you're relating to the lead player and you're relating to the drummer. I mean, everybody's relating to each other.
Yes.
But there's a certain thing that happens between the bass player and the drummer. What is it that creates that sense of rhythm that the two guys have?
Oh, I think it's just having an awareness, as a bassist of what's happening with the drums and like hooking up with the drummer, I mean, you've got to get inside their beat and their channel, so to speak, or their pocket, or think of it as a ditch, I guess. And you got to get inside their channel, inside of the ditch to figure out where in the ditch are they playing, what side.
A little ahead or a little behind the beat.
A little ahead, a little behind, and then, then how do you bring energy, like how do you make forward? It's about forward motion, I think, for me, whether you're playing a ballad or whether you're playing something fast or just medium, having that forward, that energy behind the beat that's creating the forward motion.
Well, how do you do that?
If I knew how to explain it, I'd write a book and sell some copies.
So you just feel it and follow it. Follow your own instinct.
I think so. I think, and you've got to be, as Ray Brown told me, years ago, he said, a bass player's got to be cocky, and what he means is you got to have that energy and you got to be insistent and you've got to be confident where you place those notes. This is where it's at, which is what you're saying, because everybody else is using you as their foundation. They have to depend on you to be absolutely solid so that they can take flight in whichever direction they might want to.
Right, right. I think yes. You got it. Obviously, you got it. We're hearing it on the music. This is Tom Wakeling, bassist, talking with me this afternoon during lunch hour, talking to you about the bass and his new album, West by Northwest, recorded live at the Ravenscroft right here. That's up in North Scottsdale. If you haven't been there, it's a wonderful room to hear music. Well, thanks for coming by, talking about the bass, talking about the music. It's been fun.
Well, thank you for having me, Blaise. I always enjoy chatting with you, and I'll look forward to the next time.
All right. Tom Wakeling up next with a tune called Beatrice. Now, this is from something else. What is this from?
This is from a record that I did with my friend Brad Turner up in Canada a number of years ago, and it has been on the shelf. We did it for the CBC, Canadian Broadcasting. It was broadcast nationwide, and it's called the CBC Tapes. It's Brad Turner on trumpet. Brad's a Juno-winning trumpeter and composer and pianist, lives in Canada. The Juno is the Canadian Grammy. John Gross on tenor saxophone and William Thomas on drums.
All right, let's listen to some music. Tom Wakeling and the band doing Beatrice. Be sure to check his website at tomwakeling.com. tomwakeling.com. Here's Beatrice on KJZZ 91.5 HD2.